Meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. First order of business, Jason's joining us remotely, so each of our votes will have to be a roll call vote tonight. First order of business is to review and approve the minutes from our May meeting. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections on the May minutes? Is there a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
Oh, we'll go around the room to vote with Jason. Did you vote to approve the minutes?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Gail? Aye.
Abstain. I wasn't here last time.
Okay. And Steve?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't a
So
member.
2 abstentions, the rest are any opposed. So the minutes from the May meeting pass. Next is to review and sign bills. Are there any bills, Chris?
None this evening. I do anticipate we'll be seeing our annual dues shortly, but I don't have them for as of right now.
And I wish I could say that at home, no bills. So moving on to our action items, because it is July 1st and the start of a new fiscal year, we need to vote on officers for the chair, vice chair, and clerk of the Community Preservation Committee. Are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate you.
Yes, I'd like to make an
Second.
Well, I don't think I can ask for the vote on that. So Melanie, could you do that?
All right, shall we vote on this? I make a motion that we vote on this. Is that the way it goes? Okay, roll
Second.
call vote. All right, Jason? In favor
Aye.
of
favor.
Deborah for chair?
Yes.
Aye.
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 All right.
Unanimous.
Thank you. I would like to nominate for vice chair Jason Molina.
Second.
All those in favor, Jason,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Gail, aye, Melanie,
Aye.
Harold, Steve.
Aye.
Are there any nominations for clerk?
I nominate Melanie.
A second.
Second.
Those in favor, Jason,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
John, Yeah.
Aye.
aye, Melanie,
Aye.
Carl,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Thank you. So we have reorganized ourselves exactly as we were before. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we have a new member. I believe we've all said hello, but welcome, Steve Rotalakis, representing the planning board. We're happy to have you here with us. I believe, do you know everyone in the room, or would you like us to introduce ourselves?
I think I know everyone by sight.
All
You know,
right.
I don't.
Then we'll,
Some people I know better than others.
well, we're glad you're here with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're grateful to have the rest of you back. So thank you for coming back. I think we're off to a good start, and now we've got a little more work to do. So next step is to review and vote to adopt a logo. Chris, what do you have for us?
Thank you. So we did kind of discuss the logo from the previous meeting. I do know there's some outstanding edits to the logo that was uploaded to the meeting materials, some comments that were made. We are looking to make some of those edits, namely removing the park bench and putting a monolith type Veterans Memorial logo, kind of in keeping with that, for lack of a better term, kind of cartoonish art style. So it'll look very similar to that, but a monolith to be in relation to the historic preservation representation, bolding the letters CPC in that logo. We did have the comments in terms of the coloring and matching the CPC color scheme. We are basing these colors on the policy as well as the font that's chosen. That's based on the branding policy that the town does have. So our recommendation is to keep those colors and that font choice in line with that policy, just to be consistent across other town seals or organization branding.
So those changes have not yet been made.
They're in the process. I saw a draft early this afternoon, but I mean, I think other than bolding the CPC and swapping out the park bench for a monolith type kind of image, I think those are the substantial changes. I'm happy to wait if you want to see that in actual action, or if you want to. It looked pretty nice in my opinion. So if you want to get into that level of detail for the vote, I'm happy to hold it a month, or I think there's.
And that might make sense. I can't think of anything pressing that we need to do between now and our August meeting with the logo, so we might as well see it. Are there any objections to that, or did you want to vote on it now? We might as well see it if we're going to vote on it. So we'll put that off till next month. So that brings us to the fun part of the night, project eligibility requests. We have 3 applicants. The first on the agenda is the First Congregational Church, and they have submitted 3 proposals for us to determine the eligibility on. 4. One is untitled here in the drive, that's why. Deb, would you like to speak to those since you're here, or? Yes.
I can.
Did we ever get clarification from town council about the topic Mo brought up, separation of state and church?
Yes, we
Yes.
did, and I believe, so not in these meeting materials, but it is in the folders, and I'm happy to bring that forward into this folder. But we did get a memo from town council. What they suggest is relying on a 3-part test, which I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, but it's mainly in relation to, I can pull up the memo to reference, but mainly in relation to making sure that it's tied to the structure and the benefits of the structure itself, rather than the organization, if you will. And being publicly facing, so publicly accessible.
Thank you, because it is a historic building.
Correct.
So there were 4 that I put through, and I'm assuming you all have one. I am not a buildings person. So the person that got all the quotes and did that is on vacation this week. So you have me, who doesn't really, understand all of this the same way he would. But if you want to start with the first one, there is a room in the church building we call the parlor, but it really isn't like a parlor like you would have at home, but it is an area where if someone is having an event, like a funeral, and they want to meet in that area, they can. It's a little bit off a hall, and it's a little bit more private. But this has nothing to do with the parlor itself. It's the exterior wall of the parlor. There's rotted trim on the east portion of that, and it's damaged, and it really needs to be repaired. And this is visible as you drive by Boylston Street, and that's the area that it's always covered with traffic, especially if you're there around 4 or 5 o'clock. You can't get anywhere quickly at all, which is good, I guess. But some of the areas have water damage, and this is used, you know, the parlor inside is used for the things I said, but the exterior is the part where it's the rotten wood, and we were going to hopefully replace it with PVC material, which is environmental material, which is on a lot of the rest of the building. I don't know how many years ago, but maybe 15, we replaced all the wood with PVC material, so it wouldn't have to be sanded, painted. It just does really well. My husband actually was the person that got the quotes and had that done, I want to say 15 years ago. But this area here was not done. It has rotten trim. And so that's one of the projects, and that's approximately $6,000. And the work would be done by United Home out of Ashland, Massachusetts. Another one.
Can I just interrupt? Are we going to vote on these separately?
Yes, we need to vote on them separately.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. All right.
So maybe it would be better if we did that before we heard all four, or how do you want to run it?
Which would you prefer? Would you like to tell us about all of them, or would you like to pause and have us discuss? What's more comfortable for you?
Well, it's really your choice. You are the committee, but, you know, maybe it's easier to just do one at a time instead of getting them all.
We can certainly do that. This is the one that's in the drive that says untitled, if you're looking at them in the drive or have copies. Has this historical commission made a determination if the church is?
No, we were not approached. I did ask the district commission, though, if you had been before them yet, but I would assume that if this was eligible, then you'd have to go before the district.
Well, we can, but we have gone to the historical commission, and we were given, and I must have paperwork somewhere, that we are an historical building.
Yes,
Okay.
right. But as far as this project, we haven't been approached.
No, I didn't, because I didn't know if it's appropriate to do that before you discuss it or after you discuss it. So, I mean, I'd be more than happy to meet with them, because we've met with them for prior projects when we had some of the parts of the exterior done.
Well, personally, since this is the eligibility phase of the application, I don't think we need to get into the weeds about how it's going to be done, because if it's
Correct.
not eligible, there's no sense talking about it. I do have some questions about the materials being used, but that would come later on. So
Okay.
as far as eligibility goes, that's, I think, what we need to focus on tonight.
Yeah. Well, two parts of the building, the exterior. One was the town common project that we had. The Shrewsbury gave money to people, not on the common, but in the central part of Shrewsbury. There was money funded, that was like a year or a couple of years ago. And that's when we got the historical commission to give us paperwork. And we received money for one of the four sides. And then I wrote another grant where I received money for the other side. But we still have much more to the building.
Well, to your question earlier, town council has suggested that the First Congregational Church and the building is an appropriate building for us to consider projects of, but it's a question of if this particular project is eligible for CPA funding. I guess the question would be whether or not replacing water trim falls under maintenance, because we cannot fund regular maintenance. However, we can fund certain types of historic preservation and restoration. And that's what we have to determine is, what is this? I see the wheels turning, Jason. Do you have a thought on that? I know you're well versed in the subtleties of those distinctions.
Sure. Thank you. So certainly, I raised my hand when we were talking about the eligibility piece of it. And Gail, I do see that they already are Macris, and it shows that the local historic district designated in 1972 and NRDIS in 1976. So in my opinion, I don't believe that every applicant has to go through historic commission, as long as they already have a designation for one of the three authorities. Is that in your understanding as well?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that your understanding as well, Gail?
I'm sorry, Jason, I didn't catch what you said.
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I don't have my ears in tonight, unfortunately, so it's hard for me. So maybe Deborah can
All right,
translate.
Deborah, yeah, you hear me,
Turn
Deborah?
mine up.
What was the bottom line that he is concerned?
Does it have to go through historical commission for each thing they ask, even though it's already been deemed a historical building?
Okay, right.
It's on Macris. It's already on Macris, and there's three authorities: a local historic commission, a state commission, and a national register.
Correct.
So if it's listed on one of the three registers, my understanding is I don't believe every application needs to go through historic commission in order to look at. It's probably a good idea, right, to get the wheels going, but I don't believe that checking the boxes is required from them, given that you have the three. So that's one point. Number two, yes, I also have the same concern about, does the level of work that needs to be done rise to the level of being a preservation work, and preservation being the protection of personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction? Or is this cosmetic? So when I think of preservation, in my opinion, as one member of this 9-member group, is there's a roof that has a hole in it, and if we don't close that up, the entire building is going to get even further damaged. If there's a rotted trim along the wall, is there already known damage that if we don't address it, there's an imminent danger of the wall collapsing? So I believe that preservation is in that regard, not simply from, hey, there's a soft spot on this trim. Because if it stays in the maintenance realm until there's some kind of significant issue that then has to be addressed in order to stop the damage, to then be able to then translate to another project which does the restoration work. If that makes sense.
Does. Yes.
As far as the determination for historical significance, I think we've been through that already, and we did agree that the whole entire church would fall under that category because it is in the historic district and on the register. So I think we determined that at another point in this whole process. So I don't think that's an issue. But I was looking at our plan, our own plan that we wrote, and on page 7, number 4, kind of addresses this gray zone about preservation and restoration. And if I may read it, it says CPA funds shall not replace existing operating funds, only augment them, and may not be used for maintenance. Okay, we agree on that. Defined by the CPA as incidental repairs which neither materially add to the value of the property nor appreciably prolong the property's life. but keep the property in a condition of fitness, efficiency, and readiness. So you could argue that that's what's being done here, is keeping it in a
Well-
condition of fitness.
If this isn't done eventually, the water that's coming in is going to damage that interior part because it's all rotted. I mean, you could drive by and see it. And so what's happening is because it's rotted, whenever it rains, especially some of the rain that we've had recently, it comes in and it is affecting, creating interior water damage. So,
Well, yeah, exactly. That's, when we discussed this before, I think it was at the police station, we went through this whole thing, and Jason, did pull up the literature on how, that we could not fund it because it was maintenance on other projects, but I really feel there's such a fine line between preservation and this kind of situation, because if you don't do the repairs, then it ends up in a situation where you're having to replace everything or can't replace it anymore. And we were in that position, with other structures in town that we've assessed and realized that it's too far gone. So we certainly don't want the Congregational Church to get to that point. So I need an argument against the fact that we can't fund this. That would satisfy my,
Any thoughts over here?
Yes, I think that when the wall is rotted and moisture is coming in, that's definitely far enough gone that we
That's
need to.
how I
We
feel.
need to fix that. I think that's eligible.
Yes, Carl.
I guess I feel the same way. It's like, why not spend the small dollars and get it repaired versus waiting for it to be $80, $90, $100,000?
I know.
Liz?
it'd be different if it was replacing siding and stuff because it didn't look nice or something. But if this is structurally unsound and rotted, then to me it qualifies.
So yeah, when water is coming in,
If water's
That's very
coming
bad.
in, you know what water damage does to any structure, so. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Any other sense out there?
I guess my only input would be, again, if it's borderline, if we thought it was borderline, I mean, I don't feel it is, number one, but if people thought it was borderline, I would err on the side of fixing it, primarily because, and again, personal opinion, the significance of the building to the town of Shrewsbury. That building should be preserved.
Any other thoughts, Steve?
I'm not entirely familiar with this process for the grants, but I'm assuming that the church does not have the financial wherewithal to fund this internally.
No, unfortunately, we don't, because we are an organization where our funding comes from donations.
You don't have a significant endowment, I'm assuming?
Well, we do have an endowment, but the endowment is such that we take a certain percentage out of that endowment to use for our heat, our electric bill, to pay salaries, those types of things for our, like, Sunday school programs, those types of things. So we have that endowment, but we don't take, it's set up that we can only use so much, so it supplements, and I don't have all the figures, but it supplements the stewardship campaign. And unfortunately, our stewardship campaign, even though we try very hard, is not receiving the same funding it did 20, 30 years ago. And so, that's where we're at. I mean, I'm on the stewardship committee, so we try very hard to, look at ways that we can get people to, you know, share some more of their funds. We also are looking at ways that, you know, elderly people, myself included, you know, might want to use their RMD, might want to put something in so when we're no longer here, some of it goes to the church, that type of thing. But not everybody has those types of funds, no matter how old they are. And as a church facility, if someone can't contribute, we certainly don't welcome them. We welcome everybody. We welcome everybody. But unfortunately, what it used to be and what it is now is significantly different. But then that's true for, I want to say, a lot of religious organizations, charitable organizations, you know, funding for all different types of things are not sometimes at the same level they used to be.
Right. Sorry
Does
about
that answer your question?
So I guess the question is, the answer is you have a restricted endowment, and the use of funds for the requested grant is outside.
Right, well, you know, what we do is,
Your financial
we have a budget every year.
Yeah.
And that budget looks at, you know, different things that we need for maintenance. And we do that. You know, we pay salaries, we pay, you know, the heat. Right now, there's something going on with the boiler, which I don't really understand. But anyway, so we're using some of our funds for the boiler to, you know, take care of that. We just had a mission trip where about 10 of our youth went to Maine to do types of help to people in Maine with housing and things like that. So some of our funds, not a lot, but some of our funds were used for that. So there's lots of things that our funds are used for to maintain the church, but we don't have enough funds for everything we need. It's
And these are
just
some
not there.
terrific points to make in a full funding application. Tonight, we just have to decide if this project, as stated, replacing rotted boards to prevent further damage, if the project is eligible to then invite the First Congregational Church to apply for full funding. And that's for the arguments that there's no other funding or you've looked other
Okay,
places
right.
would be really great to make.
Okay.
Kathy?
I think this is maintenance. It's deferred maintenance, but because if this had been done before, we wouldn't be here now. So deferred maintenance is still maintenance. But based on some of the comments were made, I can see my way through this. For example, I think of the gravestones. If they had been maintained over the years, we wouldn't have to fund it now. So I'm looking at it the same way. It's maintenance to preserve. So I can see my way to say that this is eligible. I can vote yay.
Jason, you have your electronic hand up.
Yes. I would say that we're only hearing about that there is other damage, but without qualifying it, without its own independent review, I personally cannot agree with saying that this is ready to move forward for eligibility. I think that there needs to be eyes on the damage from somebody that has experience in this space to be able to make a determination that yes, this is damage beyond maintenance. I don't think. Look, you know, I am a member of the church as well, but independently here, okay. And it's just to qualify, I'm not an officer of the church, so I'm just merely an independent. But I can just say that putting my CPC hat on, as I am, I think we definitely need a review of what is this damage that rises to the level of preservation as opposed to maintenance. And I don't know, maybe Chris, if there's somebody in building department that could lend a hand in interpreting and looking at this damage themselves and saying, hey, yes, I agree, I concur independently, or if some members from CPC want to attend. and take a look at that to weigh in on it. But I don't think, I'm not ready to be able to, if we take a vote right now, I will abstain from the vote. Because I don't think we have enough information to do so. Thanks.
What I have here is that you can see some of that from the outside, but there is water damage in the room that we call the parlor, but there is water damage in there. That's what I have in here, and it's not gonna go away. So,
Chris, is Jason's thought about expert eyes, is that an appropriate suggestion? Could that be done, or?
So I can certainly ask that question. I don't want to speak for building department, if that's something that, a capacity that they'd be willing to provide. Certainly, I think we could organize, to Jason's suggestion, a site visit to view the damage, if building is able to commit some time to review it as well, part of that site visit or separately. I'm happy to try and get that determination. You know,
Does this body feel that they need that visit to determine eligibility? Or would that be a compelling piece of, if we were to invite this for funding, to decide whether or not it's worthy of funding?
Seems like a pretty low bar, and I think they've kind of met the eligibility based on.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
It seems like a pretty low bar. And given the historic nature of the property as it's already on one or more lists, I think they kind of meet that first hurdle with respect to someone from the building department. It seems like it's almost, I know this is a nonprofit, and other accounting rules apply, but it seems like it's almost an issue as to whether this is an expense, if the church did it this way, that they would be able to expense or they'd have to capitalize. That's my thought. And I don't know. And I guess when someone comes in, and if they were to make a more detailed presentation, we'd have more information and we could.
We can expect a more detailed presentation when folks are asking for the funding. Do we have enough information, do folks feel, to determine whether or not this is eligible? Now, as always, eligibility is not, determination of eligibility is not a promise of funding, it's not a guarantee of funding, but it's an invitation to the next step. Do you feel ready to determine that? Is there a motion, one way or the other?
I so move.
Second.
What exactly are
I
we
was gonna
voting?
say,
I move that the repairs to the rotted trim on the exterior east wall of the Congregational Church in the center of town be deemed eligible for funding.
Jason?
Do we allow an abstention, or do I have to say yea or nay on eligibility? Like I said in my previous comment, I don't believe we have enough information. I don't have enough information to be able to make that eligibility determination. You know, it's, I believe that, you know, this is the first case we're getting this, and it doesn't matter who the applicant is. I see it as, it sounds like maintenance, it's described as maintenance, there's no evidence enough, a statement in eligibility that says there's damage inside doesn't have enough information to say, well, how much is this damage? You know, is the wall, is the entire wall coming down? Is it just a couple spots on the wall? Some peeling paint? Is there bubbling of some wallpaper? Like the qualifying and quantifying the damage is not known here. So that's the problem that I'm having. And again, irrespective of the applicant, you know, going forward, CPC will hear many more applications that come through. And I want to make sure that we are asking all the questions and qualifying things. We've learned before what happens when we go past eligibility and into application process, and then we backtrack, and it does nobody any good. That's my point. So to my question about the procedural questions here, can I abstain or do I have to say yea or nay on this eligibility?
You can do whatever you
I
want.
believe you can abstain.
You can abstain.
Kathy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Gail?
Aye.
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 Steve?
Aye.
So we have deemed this project with one abstention is eligible, and we are looking forward to learning more with the full application. We will make sure that you get the actual application that can be filled out online, so it's a little bit easier to read. Which one would you like to tell us about next?
Madam Chair, may I make a comment on
Yes.
this? I would just like to add to this application that when you do the full funding application, that you really provide us with as much information and pictures and verification that you can, as well as making sure that you have a certificate of appropriateness or from the district commission. You have to go before them to do any work that's seen from the road. So make sure you go through that process, because they will help you in the process of what materials you can use or what has to be done. It might save you some steps of having to go back and forth.
And what's that group called?
The Historic District Commission. That's the commission that you've been getting what you were speaking about before.
Okay, well, they have approved others, so, but I know
Yes,
what they are.
whenever you do work on the church, you've gone before them.
Yeah.
So they're familiar with what has to be done.
Okay. So I will,
They're the authoritative body that will dictate what you can do and what you can't do. So it's really important that we have guidance from them as well.
certainly. So I made myself some
John?
notes.
You know, to Jason's point, to some extent, I guess I agree with Jason that more information is needed, and Gail has voiced that opinion also. The point being is, if we put this off and had them do all the eligibility stuff, and then came and said, okay, they gave us all the stuff, yes, it's eligible, would we vote at the same time to give them the money the same day? Yeah, it's eligible, here's your money. Because all I'm saying is, number one, right now, we're saying it's eligible, but we're really asking them to provide us all the information that says we can give them the money. So if we hold off on being eligible, and we still need 2 meetings to determine number one eligibility and then move it down another month to give them money, that's putting the process off. I think, you know, even if you look at the rest of these, I think we can determine and say, yeah, they're eligible, but come back with all the details in order to vote to give them the money. Simple as that.
That's what I understood the process was, because when I spoke to the office, and they gave me this paperwork to fill out, and they said that's all I needed to fill out, and then after
Right.
the decision was made, then I would get more paperwork to fill out, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it's just a question of, as you've heard us discussing, that fine line between what is maintenance, which is
Right,
not
right.
eligible, and what is
Right.
restoration or preservation.
And,
So-
and I understand that, but I didn't fill out anything else because this is all I was.
That
given.
is fine. We
Okay.
don't expect you to. It is meant to be a 2-step process.
Okay.
There have been some applicants that do it all at once, which I'm not in favor of, because they could have misinterpreted what is eligible and what isn't, and have gone to all that trouble
Yeah.
for no reason.
Well, I did this because this is what I was given and this is what I was told to do.
You are following the rules beautifully.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, which project would you like to tell us about next?
There's a project called the Lighting Project,
Okay,
and
that would be lightning protection in our
Right.
drive.
an installation of a lightning addresser system. Lightning rods would be installed throughout the entire facility in compliance with the NFPA Standard 780. And that would be done to protect the historic building. And it would be performed, the work would be performed by a licensed certified contractor. I mean, we've seen what has happened to some other historic buildings in other towns with storms and lightning, and it's scary. Scary. I mean, it's scary even when I think of my home.
Kathy?
I think this is the opposite of my last comment, which is deferred maintenance. This is preventative maintenance, and I don't think it's qualified. I mean, we're not preserving it. We're imagining if a lightning hits it, then we would preserve it, I guess. But I don't think it's eligible. I think it's,
Other thoughts, questions?
I have a question. Is there any protection now? There's no lightning rods or anything in the whole church? That's
No.
kind of hard. What about the tower with all the,
With all the antennas and stuff on there.
yeah, right. It seems like they would have protected it somehow up there.
I don't think that we have what is needed. Okay, I don't think we have what is needed, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a building maintenance person, but we wouldn't be asking for this if we, we just really received funding through another grant to put in, sensors and stuff in the building for, security. And we've had the town walk through, and I think one of the things that they recommended is we've had the town people walk through, the fire people, and I think the police, don't quote me on that, but I know we've had them walk through the building to help us make decisions on what needs to be done, and there's still other things that need to be done for security, but I keep looking for security grants funding, and I'm not seeing anything that is out there right now, but I look for grants like once every other week. I go online and see what's out there to try to find. But we did receive some monies for other types of protection, but not this.
I tend to agree with Kathy that until the lightning strikes, I guess it's not really.
we can't do it.
So-
It's bad, but we can't. We didn't.
Once it strikes, the building
Well,
might
I
not
know,
be
but
here.
it's like,
I mean,
That's the
the
sad
building
thing.
strikes, there's no building left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gone.
I know, but what are we're not really preserving, what are we preserving? I mean, we're taking a risk that, or a bet that it's ever gonna get struck by lightning. Not,
That's what you're doing.
yeah.
You're betting it's never gonna happen. Never's a long time.
Jason, your hand's up?
I'm sorry?
I think Jason had his hand up.
Oh,
Yes, thank you. So I guess I'm going against the grain, 2 for 2. I do look at this as a preservation. It is a protect personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction. Protecting it from harm or destruction. I see lightning as a threat to the building, and that this would be a preventative step to protect it from destruction. I would look at this as eligible.
Any thoughts on this side of the room?
I agree. I think this is absolutely essential. In fact, I wish we could give it to you tomorrow and get you started on it. We're going to have a lot of lightning this summer. Scares the daylights out of me. And that church in Spencer is just
I know.
in the back of my mind every minute. Yeah, it would be gone in a matter of an hour or so. It's absolutely irresponsible for us not to do this. If we are interested in protecting this most significant building in our community from the historic standpoint, I think we need to approve this.
Any thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm kind of on the fence. I I think I initially went with it's more of an improvement than, preservation, restoration. But I can see the point of protection.
Kind of mind-boggling that I assume that the church gets a stream of income from the cell leases, that the people who lease from the church haven't required this, or the church hasn't figured it out that they have to deal with this, or their potential rental stream is at risk.
We've, do have a rental stream, but a couple, and I'm not, I don't even know if I'm at liberty to say which ones we have, but some of them are no longer there because so much is being done by satellite and don't, it's different. It's different than it was when they started. And so our income stream is not quite what it was, or it's not moving in the direction we'd like it to be to get more income. And I don't know how much I'm eligible to say because it's finances of the church, and I'm on TV, and I don't know how much. But the
Well, you're
truth-
asking for money.
I know. The truth is, if we had rental income, if we had endowment income, if we had stewardship income to pay for all of this, believe me, it would all have been done. And I wouldn't be sitting here because these are things that we need, and we don't have the finances to pay for it.
Okay.
In your opinion, is there one of these projects that's most important, or is it possible to rank them in order of necessity or urgency?
I'm not the person to ask that. I mean, I could take it back to our Buildings and Grounds group and ask them, if,
Well, that could be something maybe answer later, only because there
Okay.
are four before us.
right. And I put them separate instead of combining everything and making.
No, that's the right thing to
Makes
do.
sense.
Understand. I mean, I could have put it all together.
Then we would have
No,
said
that's-
separate it.
Pardon?
No, separating them was the
separate.
right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I could have, said, these are the projects and put it under, but I separated them because I thought it'd be easier to,
No, it was absolutely the right thing to do.
What's the estimated cost?
Pardon me?
What's the estimated cost?
25.
I'm sorry.
I-
25,000 is the estimated cost.
Yes. And that will be a more relevant point when we get to discussions later about funding. But, John?
I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but have you heard from the insurance company? Have they weighed in on the issue? I guess, first of all, I'm assuming there is insurance on the building. And usually, my experience with insurance companies, they always err on the side of caution.
they do, they do. They do, and, with the security and different things that we need, they are always recommending. But, at this point, no one has said we're not going to insure you, but they have made recommendations.
And that is one of them.
Maybe that's an excluded coverage, risk coverage. Lightning, I don't know, I haven't seen their
It's
policy.
an act of God, acts of God usually are
Yeah.
excluded.
Gail?
We have our guidelines that we have to follow when we're reviewing these, and I always go back to the Coalition for Guidance, and their chart that they've presented for qualifying historic projects for CPA funding clearly states that will the funds be spent on one of the following actions: acquisition of a historic resource, which this doesn't qualify, preservation of a historic resource, rehabilitation of a historic resource, or restoration of a historic resource. So I don't know that this project falls into any one of those four categories. I think it is more protection as opposed to any of these. And I understand that protection, this is that whole, chicken before the egg type of thing, right? Before the chicken. So I don't particularly feel that this is a qualifying project myself, as much as I want to protect the church and don't want it to get struck by lightning or burned down, but that's just my opinion.
Well, may I speak?
Yes, absolutely.
I think this definitely is preservation. It's keeping it as a building, keeping it safe. I couldn't feel more strongly about this. How could we not do this? This is, I can't believe that this has not come up in the CPC on the coalition website. I didn't look, but, this must have occurred before.
Not sure.
Yes, Jason?
A lot of things come up on that aren't qualifying projects.
I know, but,
So,
well.
it's an interpretation all the time.
Jason.
So,
It's so hard to be remote.
I know.
I know, you don't want to.
Sorry. Right, I agree that the database that the coalition has, it doesn't reflect that if something's on there means that it's appropriate. But to answer the question, yes, there is. Two examples, actually one example here, Orleans Federated Church Lightning Protection, 2015, and it was for their lightning protection. So that's certainly an example that if you wanted to look back at like how that project went through, that's out of curiosity. But we have to do our own due diligence. Preservation. Preservation is, again, just that definition of it. It's protection from personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction. So I do see that, Gail, to your question, to the point about does it fall under one of these? Preservation is defined as protection from, right? And I know there was a lot of dialogue about, well, what's the affordability of doing this, and then getting into the details about the revenue stream. Those parts don't matter. We're not, the CPC is not there to weigh in on whether an organization or a town can fund it. It's simply, is this eligible under CPA guidelines? And then after its eligibility check is it a priority to spend that money amongst the many projects that we're going to be getting in front of us? So I see it as preservation, protecting from a whole, if there was a collapsed, if it was a huge hole in a wall, and I mean huge, I'm qualifying it, that would be very obvious that we want to protect it from further damage. Lightning is, the building being a tall structure is a lightning rod for what could easily just destroy the building. And I think that I'm going to vote yes on this eligibility, but I want to just comment already ahead of time that saying, we had some questions on the table here about, isn't there already some protection already there? Why is that not already effective enough? So those are questions that I would come into from the application perspective. So to our applicant, I think more detail about how is it not already protected? And if so, why is it, is this an upgrade or is this net new? So all those little kind of details would be helpful if we go down further. Thank you.
Kathy?
And I would add one topic to that list is the cell phone towers. I mean, can the cell phone towers or companies put
Yeah.
lightning rod up? We have cell phone towers on the top of the Shrewsbury Towers, and I'm trying to find out who installed the lightning rods, and I think it was the cell phone, but I don't know for sure. I'll get that information. But I would think they would want to protect their investment, and maybe a way that you can get it done without these funds.
I think if they, because we've had them for a while, and like I said, we don't have the same number. Some of the cell towers are combining, and we've had one that is no longer there. They took out their equipment, but I think if we had it, we wouldn't be asking for it. That would be my understanding, because I don't think that Buildings and Grounds would be asking for something we already have.
But they could be provided, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
As they asked.
we have leases,
Mhm.
and I don't think the cell people are gonna give us anything else.
They may look to offset it against a portion of their rent and self-finance it for the church. But I don't know enough about the leases.
Yeah.
They all do have a corporate philanthropic arm that may or may not invest in things like that, and they may give back to the community in a different way, but that would be something to look at later. But
Yeah.
the question at
I mean,
hand
I will
now is this
certainly-
eligible or not?
I guess I would just move to vote on this. Number one, I think this is in the same boat as the one we previously voted on, that is it eligible or isn't it? If we deem it's eligible, and they want to do the legwork, to come back and give us a more detailed plan, which we then vote, is it good or not? I think we ought to just go ahead, if they're willing to do the work, we ought to just say, let's go to the next step, let's vote that they can go to the next step, and have them put the work into it, and then we can decide if we want, we'll all get more, I say we all, Kathy can get information on what other towers look like, and, we can get a lot more information and decide then, do we want to move forward or not?
If we have enough information to decide eligible or not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to decide if it's eligible for lighting rods to be put on the church as a preservation measure.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know. There's Jason. Jason, yay, nay, or abstention of this
Yay.
is eligible or not?
Yay, eligible.
Kathy?
Sadly, I'm nay.
John?
I'll say yes.
I'm
Yeah.
amending my past comments because preservation is defined as protect personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction. So Jason convinced me, so it's a yes.
Okay. I think I am a yes as well.
Yes, for me.
Carl
Yes.
and Steve?
I think it's a low bar again to make it to the next dance, so I'll be yes.
That is deemed eligible.
The last comment.
Your next
So
project.
So before we move on, I just want to mention, anyone with a red Prius, headlights are on out front.
I have a red Prius.
Your lights
Headlights are on.
Oh, hold on a minute.
recess for a few minutes.
It goes off automatically. I don't.
They were on when I came in, but I didn't know it was your car.
I can't fit my life in a Prius, it's not me. All right. I will take notes while Melanie steps away to deal with that. Deb, what is the next one you would like to share with us?
Well, I probably should have shared it after the exterior wall that I did before, because this is similar, and I'm reading it now. It's the east.
We have four in front of us, the lightning protection and the rotted trim we voted on. The other two that were given to
There's
us are
one
gable
east-
repair
east-
and an architect study.
East gable repair.
Okay,
And once again, this is rotted wood. And so we want to protect it from water problems, weather and water-related damage. And so the gables need to be repaired.
all right.
I-
Are there any discussion of the eligibility of replacing rotted wood and repairing water damage in the gable?
Well, my comment would be, seeing we discussed it quite length
Yes.
on the other one, we should just go right to the motion in terms of, I'll make a motion to approve it for eligibility to move to the next step.
Is there any other discussion or a second?
Second.
All right, we'll do this slow. Melanie can walk fast. Jason, yay, nay, or abstention?
Abstention.
Abstention.
Same
Kathy?
rationale as before.
Pardon me?
With my same rationale as before, I would want to see it to determine whether it's maintenance versus a restoration, preservation, or protection. Not enough information, in my opinion. That's why I'm abstaining.
Kathy?
Yes.
Yes. John?
Yes, yes.
Gail?
Based on the information presented, abstention. I agree with Jason.
All right. I will be a yay. We are voting on whether or not the gable project is very similar to the other rotted wood and replace and repair and prevent further water damage.
I will vote in favor of eligibility.
Okay.
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so that does pass. And the final one is an architect study.
Yes, and we're having problems with the floor in the ground level. And it's my understanding that it is not stable, and there may be some mold underneath there. And so we want to find out what needs to be done, including costs to this problem. And this not only is a historical building foundation, but this is an area of the ground floor that's used by our scout troops, our Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops. They meet there at least, if not more than once a week. We have robotics teams that meet, STEM groups, and we have daily Al-Anon, maybe it's weekly Al-Anon, but we have daily AA meetings in our building. And all that is, we don't get any rent or any finances from them. They meet there. So, and it has nothing to do with the religious part of the church.
Would this study just be examining the floor in that
Yes.
one area of the
Yeah,
church?
yes, because it is not stable, and there's concerns about what's underneath it, and we don't want something to fall apart. We also, if there's mold and things, we don't want any problems that go along with that. But, yeah, it's been there forever. And I don't know the last time anything was ever taken up. I mean, if you go and see it, it's kind of sad. And we do have, and I should mention this, we do have members of the church. We call them the keepers, and they do so much work in that church. I tried to help, but I'm not very good at painting or anything. But they've done sanding, they've done painting, they've done cleaning. They have removed doors, put other doors in, interior doors. And they've also, because we have safe church policy, we now have doors that have windows on. So if you are like giving a Sunday school class, and you're supposed to have 2 people. If one person doesn't come because they're sick or something, if you have an open space, then it still is acceptable. So we're trying to do that for more rooms to have those, but there's lots of things going on in the building that are community use of our building. And, I mean, when you see the number of Boy Scouts, I don't know if anybody has ever been there on a day there's Boy Scouts. You can't find a parking space, and they're just all over, and it's great. And on the wall downstairs, you will see the name of all the Eagle Scouts and the names of the different,
There's a lot of good happening there.
Yeah, yeah.
So this request is about an architectural study of the floor on the
Yes.
ground floor of this. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
This seems to me to be analogous to the similar kind of thing that we did for the little schoolhouse on Old Mill Road, in which case it's perfectly eligible.
Any other thoughts or questions? Are we ready to bring this one to a vote? Someone have a motion to make?
I move that we deem eligible the architecture study of the floor in the First Congregational Church.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
And our votes, Jason,
Yes.
Kathy,
Aye.
John.
Yes.
Gail. Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Carl. And Steve.
Yes, my only thought would be that the study seems fine, but to the extent that remediation or reconstruction is needed of the foundation or any of the subflooring, it would seem that that could be exhaust our budget.
Yes.
So I don't want that taken as somehow, that we proceed to the next level and deal with that. But given the educational use of that property, you might want to, after you get the architect's report, assuming this commission decides to fund the study, you might want to talk to someone like the Alden Trust or someone like that who has the resources for more significant grants.
The Alden Trust,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some of your keepers didn't know some people who are on the Alden Trust.
is that a
A
local?
Worcester-based organization.
If you were to walk into the library and the wall that has a number of the donors of the capital campaign, there are some very old trusts that have Shrewsbury roots that helped fund the expansion of the library that could be interested in other historic buildings in
I
Shrewsbury.
will look into that. I'm actually a member of the foundation board for the library.
Go look and see what I wrote in 2007. You might see a couple of things there you can use.
I'm always looking for,
Some of the more storied, longstanding foundations that are known in Worcester do have some roots and connections to Shrewsbury.
okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time, Deb. We appreciate you coming in and speaking to these. So as always, these projects have been deemed eligible. It's no guarantee of future
understand.
funding, but we look forward to your applications.
Thank you. And so you will send me the material for the next step?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to make sure you don't have to hunt for it. I know that the links are not working yet on the website, but we will get you the application. It will be a PDF that you can fill in the fields.
Thank you. Yes, and
So I do
all
believe
of
that the
you-
links on the website are working, but we'll certainly give the materials to them.
So we want to make sure that, I know the plan is on there and the application is buried in the plan, but we want that application front and center so it's easy to find.
Yes, and then you won't have to deal with my writing.
It's just fine.
Well, thank you. Thank you so very much, and I will share this with Buildings and Grounds, and I will also share it with my church community, and we'll see what happens as we go forward. And I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your dedication to Shrewsbury.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is there's an eligibility application regarding Edgemere Park playground improvements. In the folder, there is also the playground assessment, which we had previously funded. And this application is looking for funds, well, looking to see if the project of building the playground as suggested would be eligible.
So for the next two items, this and the Arrowwood Drive, I know that's on the agenda. The committee had asked for some additional information for the Arrowwood, and I anticipate some similar for the Edgemere Park, so I'd like to hold those to the next meeting if possible.
From what my opinion is, having seen $1 million price tags, we don't have that budget. But if those can come to us with the projects explained in greater detail, there may be parts of the projects that are eligible that we could consider funding. But we surely don't have $1 million for one project at this time. My opinion. Yes.
I have a question pertaining to all these neighborhood parks, and maybe, Chris, you can answer this for me. Are there, when those were established, to my understanding, there was a trade-off. The builders had to provide some open space in the neighborhood. For instance, is Arrowwood a subdivision that has HOA fees, or do you know of that? Or do any of these have that type of a situation? Or are there restrictions on how that property is used, or covenants in the deeds that have to, certain things have to be done?
Yeah, so typically how that happens, the operation of that is tied to the subdivision approval with the planning board, becomes either a condition of that approval. Many times, if not always, is secured by a covenant restriction or other deed restriction binding on that acreage of the property. So it'd be part of that subdivision approval that we require them to set aside open space owned by the town or otherwise protected.
So the homeowners themselves, do they have any liability with that property?
No, they would not.
They would not. But if there was a homeowners association, it would be negated. I mean, there's probably no homeowners association. I'm just curious as to if some of the burden of the maintenance and the repair and the building of these neighborhood parks shouldn't be on the neighbors themselves. I know they're public spaces and they can be used by anybody, but they are neighborhood parks. And I was curious as to how that was set up, as to whether we have to bear the whole burden or if there's a shared burden,
Yeah.
especially in the maintenance.
Yeah, understood. So they are transferred, so typically in these cases, they are transferred to the town and town ownership. They are open to the public, whether it's
Right.
the immediate neighborhood or otherwise. There are cases in some condominium developments or other similar HOA developments that would then have restricted public access to those open space. We do have some in our bylaws, sometimes set-asides for those amenities spaces, but it's not open to the public. That would be a separate consideration that
Right.
the HOA would contribute to those costs. But
If I may follow up, my other question was, should these parks be developed, that's going to put an awful large burden on our Parks and Recreation Department and the Maintenance Department to maintain them going forward. Right now, they mow the grass, they don't do any, it's limited. So how do we factor that all in? Sure, we can fund the upfront money to make the improvements, but how is it, are they gonna just deteriorate as the years go by? That's my concern. I mean, I want to see them being used and be developed, but I'm really concerned about the maintenance of them with the departments as stretched as they are now with maintaining the properties. What's gonna happen when all these properties need new mulch and need new, this and that? So that's a concern that I think needs to be addressed when they come bring in a proposal to us to, well, yeah, you can,
Sorry, Parks and cemetery commission member here. As Mo mentioned in a prior meeting, the parks have not been funded for 30 years. They just deteriorate. We, Dean Park, right? We throw lots of money at Dean Park. We don't throw really any money at any of the park. So, I know the price tag is not palatable. I agree, but, you know, we have neglected our parks. Now, maybe we should just sell some land, put up another house, and get revenue, right? Sell the park. We're not gonna do anything with it. And yeah, a new park's gonna deteriorate, just like, and it's not us to say whether a burden on the department. They're sponsoring the fact that this park is gonna be built, right? So they're already aware of what they need to do. But, you know, in the plan, they are doing things to make it less maintenance heavy. They're not putting in bark mulch. They're putting in ADA compliant flooring, much like at the New Beal playground, at the New Beal school. A lot of money, beautiful, but I don't know what to say, you know. Maybe we need to fund one to show what it could be and get some money in a budget from the town to do more, whether it's in an override or whatever. But, you know, we either need to do it or not, utilize it or not, right?
Chris?
So I appreciate the comments. I do, I think this is kind of leaning into the funding phase of a review for the project. I do know that there is discussion ongoing of, you know, funding opportunities for these projects outside of CPC and how that could be pursued. I don't have anything formal right now, but I know that that is in the works of seeing what options are available. And again, I think that would be handled at the funding phase. At this point, we'll be reviewing eligibility. Again, I'd like to hold that until next month, when we can have a little bit more robust presentations on these. But, you know, I do understand the discussion that has been happening and hope to address that as well.
Carl?
Didn't we already vote on Arrowwood last month?
I believe we did.
I didn't think so.
I believe we did vote that it's eligible for Arrowwood,
Okay,
but we haven't gone any further than that.
right. No, I understand the two-part deal, so yeah. Yeah.
Good point.
Is someone gonna make a presentation?
We don't require a presentation for eligibility, but for funding, we highly encourage it. Yes,
I
John?
guess, kind of a question to Parks and Recs. The playgrounds at the schools, do Parks and Recs maintain those playgrounds at all? Or who does, if we don't?
No, so I understand that recently the Parks Department inherited all of the school playgrounds
Yeah,
with no additional money in their budget. So they have been inherited.
so technically you're supposed to maintain the.
Yes, that's, yes,
See-
new. That's new to
I
us.
look at it more than something breaks and you gotta spend money to repair it. And again, I drove down and spent some time going around the Beal, nice playground. But I look at more the maintenance issue being labor has got to show up, sweep the thing, I don't know, maybe hose it down once a month. You know, the kids run around and have a grand time and dirt gets in there, all kinds of stuff. And that's why it has a tendency to deteriorate. If we were capable of doing ongoing maintenance, that may not happen, but maintenance requires labor, not just, even Dean Park, the big sandbox they got there, kids have a ball. But what, you must have to bring 2 or 3 dump trucks every year? Because the kids take half, eventually it all goes home with the kids, you know? I mean, my kids did it, my grandkids did it, you know? We have to hose them down at home. But the point being is, it's more than waiting if a swing breaks and then you gotta pay to buy a new new swing, that's one thing. But have the Parks and Recs people show up once a week, once every 2 weeks, go through and make sure everything's in its place, that costs money.
Yeah.
I
Can I
think,
add a comment to that?
Absolutely.
Sometimes, in the most well-meaning way, things end up costing a little money. For instance, somebody would put up a, sponsor or build a trash can receptacle. Now, the trash has to be then emptied on a regular basis. So every good deed, adds up to the cost of running this town. And, it's progress. We all need those trash bins. I wouldn't wish them away, but there they are.
And ultimately, those are about the values the community holds and the
True.
priorities that our municipal government
But
puts forth at a given time. Ours, those are the great conversations we can have over coffee and something stronger. But ultimately, what we decide is if a project is eligible for our funding is not eligible for maintenance. So it's a valid question when we choose to fund a project, if it will in fact be appropriately cared for, but not with our funds. So it's a good conversation to have. The whole town, frankly, should be talking about that, what's
question.
important to us.
I would imagine if Parks and Recs wanted to take care of all the parks, even use Arrowwood, and Arrowwood, let's say, hasn't been maintained, but it's still a park, it's still useful. Even to go rake the sand and clean it and stuff like that, they'd have to put $100,000 in their budget to handle all the parks for the entire
Well,
spring and fall.
look at, they did the playground assessment, right? And you look at it, and a lot of deficiencies are found in our playground. So what are they doing now? They're removing equipment. That wasn't in their budget, to spend this time and effort to remove,
True. But the alternative would be to maintain it, and that's a bigger expense.
I agree, but as I've seen, and I've only been on Parks and Cemetery a few years, right? And Mo said 30 years they don't fund the parks, and I know, Kevin talks about how, he gets $20,000 a year for mulch. That's what he gets for maintenance of the parks, other than mowing. There's no money for new equipment, there's no money, they have to, wiggle around the budget to find a new swing, not an entire set, just the one broken swing.
Jason, your hand is up.
Yes. I know you want to focus in on eligibility, but I think that this conversation we had about maintenance, ongoing maintenance, which is not CPA funded, however, that is going to be a factor playing into should we fund $1 million site and another $1 million site and then keeping this pattern. So I think this is certainly a good pause point and say, is this even a good strategy to work towards these $1 million submissions for eligibility when we know, I feel already, it's dead on arrival. So yeah, you can get through eligibility if all the ducks line up saying, oh, okay, we can see all the larger itemized pieces are all eligible. We haven't seen that yet, but let's determine that. But if we get to the next step, you already hear all the questions. They're already out there. The funding is not there on both sides of it, capital side of it, and maintenance side of it. So I think this is a good piece to say. I think we need some more eyes on this thing to say, what's the strategy for our parks? And not every park is priority. Not every park should be a Dean Park, So.
All right, so we will see those next month, Chris. They'll be refined more. Was there something more you wanted to say, Carl?
No, again, Arrowwood's already been, right, voted eligible. right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
so,
just-
so.
Just Edgemere.
So I'll take the comments, again, very much heard. This will be on for next month. Edgemere Park will be reviewing for eligibility in Arrowwood Playground. That was, I had intended to put that as a funding application, so I apologize for the misplacement on the agenda. But that will be on for a funding application at the appropriate time.
Okay. So the remaining item on our agenda is the community preservation plan. We have submitted updates. Chris, you had said that they are, at this point, largely formatting.
Yeah, and so as we were working through this evening's items, I was able to include those in a Word doc. I'm happy to share it. I can go through those changes. Primarily, they were just formatting the bulk of the report, as well as the community needs assessment. The comments that were received to date have been included in the folder. But primarily, I can pull up, I think there's 2 sentences that were amended, and then 1 or 2 typos and a formatting of one of the photos. But I can go through those in more detail if the committee would like to review those.
Do you wish to see those edits made, or do you wish to vote on the plan with the edits, as Chris has said would happen? Jason? Gonna give you a big plastic hand for next time.
So, I mean, along with the plan, community preservation plan also includes our goals section. So if we approve the plan ahead of looking at the heat map and the feedback from the boards and committees that were solicited, we would have to take that separately, like the order of operation here. So if we're gonna approve, we should only be talking about the things that are not related to the goals section, because the goals are going to be impacted by the next piece we're going to hear about, I'm hoping, which is the feedback. Okay? Does that make sense?
Were there any other typos, formatting, or structural additions to the plan? Chris, do you have the heat map updates?
I do. Those are included in the folder as well. I can pull those up if.
In the folder.
Were based
right,
on
the chart-
the comments that were collected and input into this. Are there changes that need to be made to the goals? Jason?
Well, is the chart that's in the board and committee comments tab of the needs collection reflects dates on which the committees had met, and I'm seeing a blank for Parks and Cemetery Commission and Select Board. Is that correct? That we're still waiting for feedback from those 2 entities?
Correct. The entities that don't have a date have not submitted any comments in return to the solicited comments.
Have they been requested?
Yes, they have. Twice.
Is it fair to assume then, or may we assume, if they chose not to submit comments, that they have no changes, they have no new priorities they wish us to be aware of?
Who's they? Us?
I know the select board and who else?
Parks and Cemetery.
Parks and Cemetery.
Was each party given a reasonable amount of time to respond? It certainly wouldn't be fair to say, if they got the email yesterday, I'm just hypothetical, right? To expect a response in the same day? Like, is
Months.
this month, okay?
Months.
Months, okay. And then what about Carl, Parks and Cemetery?
Well, yeah, I brought it up on the 5/26 meeting, well, our 5/6 meeting. I take notes because I present it back to the Cemetery and Parks Commission. So I know we did that in early June, that I brought that up to them. I don't believe they said they had done it, and I know they're not having a meeting this month. So I can send an email, and I will send an email
May I
looking for
comment?
that.
Yes.
I mean, all the work that the Parks Department is doing seems to imply that they have some goals.
I I would think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, I mean,
you know,
that whole-
whether it's this part, Arrowwood or Edgemere or.
Yeah, that
or
whole,
Dean Park basketball courts, the parking lot.
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
those are
Camp
all
Lonergan. Yeah, I imagine Kevin's plate is very full being a project manager
yes.
on a number of projects.
I know.
Yes.
Can we consider those as no longer goals because they're under serious consideration and are in fact being worked on?
Well, I would say they're all goals, right, to be completed this year, right?
I don't know. They're not gonna be completed for a long time. So I guess they're still goals.
Right, there's
Yeah.
two goals, right? Right, the library
Okay,
story wall.
can we just transfer some of that to their, to that file?
Yeah, I'm not, I would think, given the number of projects they have going on already, yeah, maybe they haven't thought about future goals, but I'll ask.
Yeah.
I'll send an email.
It may simply be the goals remain the same, and
Yeah.
they thought that that was implied,
Okay.
possible. So, Jason, what you're suggesting, though, is until we confirm or give them a third strike, we should not assume that the heat map or goals are complete. Does anyone else feel that way?
I wasn't involved in the compilation or discussion, so I'm gonna abstain.
Thank you. What do we think, folks? Or can we vote on it, or should we put that also off to our next month's agenda? But I would not want to push it off any further than August. At that point, I would prefer to assume that they either assume we are tremendous mind readers, which I assure you we are not, but that their goals have not changed, that they are the same. They have the same concerns and priorities as they identified last time we asked.
And so the goals do carry, so that was as noted in the list that we have. It does the note 2022 and the heat map, we move them collectively, so if there's no new goals that are added, or if they're not in any way substantially different from that, we don't include them in the update, but they would be, again, that heat map says how many times it was mentioned. So they do run year to year, so.
That's reasonable. So we hold on to that one for one more month? Do we think that, Carl, do you think that you'll be able to get at least a confirmation that it remains the same?
I could probably get a confirmation, yes,
Okay,
yes.
that would be good enough for me.
I can arm twist them enough. Select board, I have no arm twisting
No.
ability.
Let's see what we can do with them. No, and Jason, did you have your hand up again? I can't see my notes without my glasses. I can't see across the
Yeah.
room with my glasses, so.
Yes, I was going to ask, well, I am asking now, whether, Carl, if you felt that there was, if you could have an executive answer here and say, no, I think we're good to keep the existing goals for the committee. I mean, as the rep from.
Yeah, no,
board.
I would think their goals haven't changed. That would be my
Okay.
opinion, right? But I could,
And- No, I'm just saying, I think we do have to turn the page
Yep,
on
that's fine.
this. And I think, and if your opinion, which as a committee, as a representative from that group that hasn't formally addressed it, if you can take the heat, no, sorry, if you can take the authority on that and say, look, I think we're good. I think these goals still reflect what you've been hearing the last year, then I think we can move forward with that.
yeah, no,
and-
I agree. I think we're good. I think.
And
we're
then, relative to the select board, I think at this point, we know they have many pressing things to worry about for the entire town, not just, CPA-related items. I think the pattern we can get into here is that there's asks that come up a couple times, as long as it's reasonable amount of time provided to them to get it, and then we have, nothing else, no other issues with the in communication, then I think that if we do receive any feedback, that will just be taken up for the next cycle. I think we can, given this, which was just what I just said, and hearing that from Carl, I think we should take the vote tonight.
I think that is reasonable, because I believe, Chris, it was March, I think we started asking. I think that in any definition of reasonable, 4 months is ample. So is there a motion to approve the plan with the grammatical typo and structural edits that we have discussed using the existing goals and heat map as they currently are?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Jason?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Gail?
Aye.
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 Kyle?
Abstain.
And abstain. So we have approved our plan, and that will also, the updated plan will go on the website once those corrections have been made. We've got that done. Next steps, we,
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Jason?
Sorry, can I just add an administrative add-on to that? I'd like to see that the front page or the next page of the CP plan have an updated date. Because I think that as we will make changes to the plan as if there's any other grammatical issues that come up or other changes that we commit throughout the year, but not just formally as we are going through now in terms of goals, but if we have a date on that, then at least we know that what revision number that is. So when we look back, it's hard to tell what's changed, but if we have a date, we know this is the as of.
Yes, the letter that prefaces the plan has the current date on it.
No, sorry, not
cover
the date of with a letter as you're saying, but rather
The cover
revision.
page with.
Cover page.
Like the zoning
Understood.
bylaws revised
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, exactly,
That
revised,
be
yeah,
made.
exactly, thank you.
I know in our funding letters of our previously funded projects, we asked for quarterly updates. Do you think that August or September, we would have updates on our previously funded projects, just to know where they are?
Sure.
That would be terrific. Our next meeting is August 5th. Same time, same bat channel. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to, yes, Gail?
I was curious as to if anything's been done to set up a time when we can see the fire engine. We were talking about that quite some time ago, about the committee having a photo op with a new fire truck. Is that still in the works, or should we wait till fall when it's?
So from the discussion of the board, I think we landed on people can individually go
Oh,
to that.
okay. I guess
If the
that was-
committee's renewed interest in having a group photo session, I'm happy to coordinate that.
Okay.
We can do that
It'd be
anytime.
nice to have the whole group.
I thought it would be nice to have a group shot with the fire truck and the,
Is
Let me
it-
see what-
is it ready to be photographed?
pardon me?
Is it ready to be photographed?
Yeah, oh, sure, it could be photographed.
I
I
don't
don't know, unless
know.
they've
It's in a
already
million
taken it
pieces.
apart.
Innovation is
Maybe they've
complete.
already started taking it apart, I don't know.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just curious, because we were gonna have a,
Well, perhaps when it's complete, we could find a time that's convenient for them and those of us that can make it.
when it's complete,
When it's complete.
oh, that's
I don't
probably
think it's complete.
4 more years.
But that's something that we'd like to know.
Yes.
I would just like to bring up maybe for the future a discussion point. I know when we talked about signs, we were doing our own little signs, but then we talked about, while the project was going on, but then we talked about permanent signs for projects. I'd like to have a discussion on whether we should fund those signs out of our administrative budget versus putting the burden on the project itself. It's just they've already got enough to do, is kind of my point. And we have this administrative money that we just kind of don't use and turn over to the general fund. Why don't we, I don't know, do our own signs? That's a discussion point I'd like to have sometime next time. Yeah.
So just for the viewers at home, that doesn't go to the general fund of the town, it's the CPA general
Yes,
fund.
our funds
I just
are-
wanted to-
Yes,
There's been-
CPA general
There's been
fund,
some,
sorry.
there's been some,
Yes.
yep.
Yes,
Our funds always remain CPA funds.
Yep.
They
Yes.
don't go anywhere.
right.
So it's funded by.
And the only other thing that
Yes,
we
yeah,
had
more of a permanent sign.
for our last meeting was, I believe, Kathy and Jason, you had the opportunity to meet with the Affordable Housing Trust. Would either of you like to give us a quick update on how that went, or is there anything we should know about that meeting?
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, so I mean, this is, I don't think, we had our first meeting, I don't think we're at a level really to present anything formal, but we did start with that discussion of where the objectives are, and primarily that is looking at other towns' logistics and how they fund the CPC, or the Affordable Housing Trust through the CPC, and evaluating some of the existing documents that we have, the documents that, and logistics of other communities, and trying to develop something that is presentable to both the Affordable Housing Trust and CPC in formal meetings. So we've been collecting those documents. The next meeting is coming up. Will be,
Is it next Friday?
Friday the 12th, yeah.
what did we say, Friday, say the 12th, or no? Yeah,
Yes.
it'll be the 12th.
12th.
So we may have some additional materials to present by the August 5th meeting, depending upon how that goes. I think we'll have enough to kind of make some meaningful progress, if not, probably not a formal submission of anything, but at least some progress to report on.
Was that July 12th, you said?
Correct, July 12th.
Okay, so the joint meeting of the AHT and the CPC is July.
Sorry, so this is not a CPC joint AHD meeting.
Okay,
This is the working
two-
group.
two-
The two representatives
yeah,
working on
right,
that
okay. I
logistics
understand.
to present to both committees.
Is there anything else that anyone feels needs to be discussed or spoken of today? Chris, do you have anything else for us?
Yes.
Jason has something?
Oh, Jason?
Yes. So, we came out of town meeting with understanding that the a cemetery project was underfunded. And given our timeline here, now we're going to head into August. Is the applicant aware now to submit a new eligibility, go through the process, or how we helping them along? Like, just wanted to make sure that, we're not leaving that behind, because special town meeting will be really early, and we need to get our ducks in a row in order to be submitting that into the town warrant process.
Is this the project behind Merriam Street? Along Prospect?
No, it's the
No.
restoration of historic gravestones
Oh,
in
okay,
the Mountain View Cemetery.
okay, so it's not
Yeah.
it's not the cemetery expansion?
No, it's
Okay.
not the
No,
cemetery
no.
expansion. It's the historic portion of the Mountain View Cemetery, the restoration of gravestones there.
Right, but also one more thing to that, Gail, also we had that conversation about the possible, if there was an opportunity to expand it to include the Grove Street Historic Cemetery.
Right, well, we're looking into that. If we did something, it wouldn't be coming to the fall town meeting for the Grove Street Cemetery. Is that what you're referring to that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And so you already have the organization already on site?
That wouldn't be
Doing work?
a historic district project anyway, because it's not in their district, so
Right,
it's
but-
separate from that, either commission
a-
or private individual.
But there is a new application needs to be submitted to move forward with the next piece of the funding that they need. So an application has to come anyway. It could be joint between the HDC and Historic Commission,
I think,
hypothetically, in my opinion.
what did he say?
So they're aware of the need for an application to fund the balance if they so need
Yeah,
to.
yeah, no, they've got the paperwork, they're submitting that paperwork. I assume that's,
If it's still needed.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's my question. The bid, now that the fiscal year just started today, obviously, are they gonna put the bid out soon for the cemeteries? Or are they gonna wait till we get the rest of the money?
I'll try to get an answer for the quarterly report next month on that.
All right, because who Parks and Recs would put the bid out? The only reason I'm asking is if the bid went out and 160 funded it. Because the 205, what it was somebody projected an estimate, so it's, no one came in and said that's what was required.
No, I think that was.
So maybe, yeah, it was an estimate, it was not a real bid. So at the
Jason.
end of the day, we don't know what it's gonna cost.
Correct.
You take the lowest qualified bidder.
I'm
Right,
sorry?
but
You're gonna award it to the lowest qualified bidder.
Yes,
so I think if we wait for a report to come in the August meeting, then that means then we're waiting for an application of September. And then what? We're basically tying up.
Unless they
this-
submit an
this project.
application for next month. But it's,
Okay, thank you.
Well, if they submit it, we'll look forward to considering it and acting on it at that point.
I'm sorry to break in, but this one was really on us. The applicant didn't realize that we made a clerical error as a body relative to submitting it to town meeting. So I don't think that the applicant should be penalized for our mistake as a body. So I think we should be pushing this ourselves, making sure that we are aware of the timing of going to fall town meeting to try to make this project whole, and to be able to then turn around with a bid at the amount that was originally
I
requested.
believe that they're aware, and that they're on it as much as we can't write the application for them.
No,
John.
but as we have done as an organization previously, with prior assistant town planner, in communication with an applicant and getting the process moved along. So if we just rely on comments in a meeting, we may not see the applicant come back in a timely manner in order to fulfill the project. It's our goal too to see this project move forward, because it's also part of the longer term project here about the recognizing our 300th anniversary.
I'll be happy to
So
remind the
if we lose
applicant.
the timing.
I'll be happy
lose the
to
timing,
remind
Chris
the
is
applicant.
on that as
gonna-
much as
we're
we
gonna miss
can
it.
be on it at
Chris,
this
the
point.
selectmen are aware of the
John?
yes,
issue.
my question is, why does the applicant have to come back? He submitted an application for 205, we approved 205, so the 205 is on the table. We only had 160,000 available, so that's all the town meeting voted on. Do we as a committee just go back and ask for the other 45?
We simply need them to fill out the form and sign off on the additional funds if that's what they still need. We can't grant the money without that piece of paper asking us for the money, but
It's not additional
simple,
money.
it's quick, it's not a full law. We already know the story. We don't need the big, long presentation. We just simply need
We've already
a piece of
approved
paper
205.
that has the remaining balance of what they believe they need.
We approved it, but they.
We approved
town meeting
205.
only
The town meeting
approved
did.
160, so.
That's right. We submitted 160. All I'm
Well, I
saying
don't want to
is we
speak for the applicant,
we go
but
back
I'm
and submit
pretty
the other
confident that
45
they're
at the
aware of
next
what's
town
going
meeting.
on, and
Right.
they've got their ducks in a row,
And
and they'll be
and
before
they know
us.
that it doesn't have to be the big, involved pressure cooker application was before. It's simply, they just need to fill out the paperwork, because we can't grant the money without the application.
We already got the application.
But what was granted was not that full amount. What was granted and voted on at town meeting was less, which is always right. We can always vote on, I know we originally voted on it, but as Jason said, because we followed the previous year's motions, there was a difference in what we thought we were presenting and what actually went, the wording that went to town meeting.
Okay.
We didn't have the full amount in that column. You're the numbers guy, you know that.
Well, I know that, but the point being is, it's not, we only submitted a request for 160 based on a 205 grant, because that's all the money we had. So I'm saying all we gotta do is submit the other 45.
Exactly. That's all they have to do, and Chris
No,
is
they
going to
don't.
remind them.
See, they don't have to do anything. They already did the 205's on the table.
We
It's
need them
gonna
to
be a warrant
process for it.
article. It's gotta be a warrant article, though.
That's right. But we gotta submit the warrant article to approve the 45,000.
So,
Why don't we just, if the selectmen are aware of it, let the selectmen initiate it? It'd be a lot easier for them to initiate it than
No,
us.
They're asking for Parks and Recs to come, Parks and
So
Rec
let me
submitted a
simplify.
request for 205, in the form type thing. They wanted to submit another request for another 45.
So let me simplify. I will reach out to the applicant and remind them that we are looking to see that application if that funding is still needed, depending upon where the bid is.
Okay.
However those logistics work out, whether it's a full application or they just reiterate the same application and come before the committee to get a recommendation on the town warrant, we can have that discussion at the next meeting. And I will work with them to get that, whether it's a quarterly update or whether it's a full application, whatever it is. But again, I need to go back to the applicant. This discussion right now, again, is highly hypothetical. We need to discuss with the applicant what the next steps are
That's fine.
and move forward in the next month.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. We've got that for next month as well. I'm afraid to ask it. Is there anything else? Is there a motion
Yes.
to adjourn?
No, there's one more thing, sorry. It's informational. So the Community Preservation Coalition held their boot camp. It's a CPA 101 boot camp, and that is now available as a video on their website. So especially for our new member, Steve, and for other folks who want a refresher, and I attended as well. As much as I know about CPA, I always learn new things. Every time I watch that boot camp, so I highly recommend it. It's on the coalition's website. It's up right. It's highlighted as the first video. Please do watch it. It's very informative. And again, it's new members and old should watch it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Does everyone get the emails from the Community Preservation Coalition?
No.
Would you like to get them? They are very informative. There's a lot of information there. Or you can simply go to the Community Preservation Coalition website yourself periodically. But we can submit your email if you'd like it.
It's particularly enjoyable to see their posts on social network as well as the projects that have happening. I mean, it's really exciting, some of the coalitions.
Someday ours will be there too. Someday. All right. If that is all for tonight, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, Jason,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Gail, I,
Aye.
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
Thank you. So that concludes the July 1st meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. Thank you, Jason. Enjoy wherever you are. Thank you for calling in.